Good afternoon, football fans. The Big D and Alice with you as we preview Conference Championship Sunday on the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. Before I bring in Alice, who's probably swimming upstream and still thawing out after the Miami Dolphins wildcard exit, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. We can only see the stream, but see all the championship week episodes I've uploaded. Speaking of the Big D podcast, you can always check us out on Spotify and Apple. So, ready to join us, leader of the Miami Dolphin Fans Club and number one fan of the Tua Tagovailoa for Comeback Player of the Year.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Don. As always, wonderful introduction. I appreciate you. I think you pretty much nailed it. So excited to watch these football games this weekend. It's the only thing is it's definitely a bit bittersweet. Championship weekend means that the NFL season is quickly coming to an end, and the longest off season in sports is quickly approaching. But it's going to be an amazing slate of football this weekend, leading up to Super Bowl Sunday in 2 weeks.
Longest off season, all of season been going on for weeks. Yours began 2 weeks ago. Mine began 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I swear, no sport feels longer when it comes to time off than the NFL. It just, you take it for granted almost while it's here. And it's opening kickoff. The next thing you know, you're week 8. Next thing you know, the playoffs are starting and your season's over. We love it, but it goes too quick.
Yeah, hopefully next year, one of our teams will be playing for the AFC Championship, if not both.
Absolutely, and that was always my favorite thing about basketball season is when the Heat would go deep into the NBA playoffs. It sure made NFL offseason last a little. It seemed like it goes by a little bit quicker because I've got some one of my teams to follow for a little bit longer. So hopefully the Heat can go on a big run this year. They're on a cold streak right now, but let's talk for another day.
Do you have any favorite championship game memories? Because there's so many we can think of. Joe Montana and Dwight Clark in the back of the end zone. Remember Brett Favre's famous interception in the Superdome. Mention Drew Bledsoe replacing Tom Brady and the Patriots. Heck, even Miami Dolphin fans, maybe older than you, would remember Bob Greasy and the 72 Dolphins played Pittsburgh at Three Rivers Stadium, and that's when Miami was 14-0 and played a road AFC Championship game.
It's crazy. Yeah. No, definitely there have been some memorable games over the years. As you mentioned, not quite old enough to remember any Dolphins AFC Championship games, but definitely as far as legacy goes, those are definitely at the top of the list. The number one game that kind of stands out to me recently and just throughout my NFL fandom is pretty recent, a couple years back, 2001 to be exact. In a matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals. That game, I feel like that game had everything. Obviously we're so used to seeing Patrick Mahomes in championship games and making it to Super Bowls. Joey Burrow was, 1 year into his second year of his career there. And, it was really, just so exciting seeing, the Mahomes who's been there, done that. And, the new age, especially from, that 2020 quarterback class, even that 2021 quarterback class had so much hype. So it was great seeing, Joe Burrow kind of be one of the first guys to really break into, a deep playoff run and try and knock off the Chiefs. And that's exactly what he did. That game was, I watched that game in an airport. I was actually getting on a plane to come back from New England. And we were watching the game in the airport, and we were just about to start boarding the plane when it was in overtime. And I was one of the last people to get on the plane because one guy was watching it in the waiting room on his tablet. And we saw Patrick Mahomes' interception in overtime. And everyone knows Evan McPherson knocked home the field goal to send Joey Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl.
By the way, it's not 2001, it's 2021.
Sorry, did I say 2001? I meant 2021. Yeah, I think you know what I meant.
How old were you in 2001 anyway?
5, turning 5. What about you, bro?
January of 01, I would have been 8.
No. What's one of your favorite championship weekend memories?
Well, one of them happened way before my time.
Yeah.
How about, and Dolphin fans are going to like this one. 1982 AFC Championship Game, Miami Dolphins hosting the New York Jets, and A.J. Dewey, yes, A.J. Dewey picking off Richard Todd once, twice, 3 times as the Miami Dolphins win the game 14-0. I believe Dewey's third interception was a pick 6 in that game.
Wow. You are an encyclopedia, though. It doesn't even have to be Jaguars history, and you've got that on deck. I'm impressed.
And by the way, that was the year before Miami drafted Dan Marino.
Yeah.
Famous Mud Bowl, because the Jets complained that the Orange Bowl was money because the Jets, quote unquote, possessed the faster, more creative offense.
Well, that faster creative offense scored a big goose egg on that day, huh?
Yeah, the Jets actually gave up points to the other team more than New York actually scored.
Love it. Anytime we can embarrass the Jets and put the Jets back in their place, it's time. I'll be happy to celebrate.
Yeah, who would think? Yeah, Richard Todd threw 5 interceptions that game. And Miami's starting quarterback, David Woodley, threw 3 of his own.
Yeah.
He completed 9 passes.
It was a different NFL back then, and even still, you add in the Mud Bowl elements, and that's never going to be a pretty game.
And then one where I think this could lead into our first conversation for Sunday, 2006 AFC Championship Game, Patriots and Colts. Tom Brady and New England dominated the NFL in the 2000s, winning 3 out of 4 Super Bowls, while Peyton Manning and the Colts could throw for 8,000 yards in a season. But guess what Peyton Manning needed?
What?
A Super Bowl ring.
Hey, he finally got one, but it sure took him long enough.
Well, and in a game that Peyton Manning's legacy was going to be dependent on, Colts came back down 21-3. Peyton threw a pick 6 to Asante Samuel, and it looked like the Colts were done. And then, bam, Indianapolis scores, and then Joseph Dye puts the Colts ahead, and then Marlon Jackson intercepts Tom Brady. Colts go to the Super Bowl, which they eventually win over Rex Grossman and the Chicago Bears. And Peyton Manning put himself not just in the stratosphere of great statistical quarterbacks, but great all-time quarterbacks.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'll never forget watching that Super Bowl and seeing Devin Hester return that opening kickoff for a touchdown. And you had to think, is this going to be the Denton Peyton legacy, or is he going to overcome it? And with a forehead that big, he was a head and shoulders above the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and speaking of rain, it was a mud bowl at Sun Life or Hard Rock Stadium that night.
Yeah, that's true. All the best Super Bowls are in Miami.
Wait, except the ones in Glendale, right?
Yeah, true.
So, about the AFC Championship game, the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs are playing in their 6th consecutive AFC Championship game. And
Yeah.
facing the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore has not hosted an AFC Championship game since 1971. Johnny Unitas was the Baltimore Colt. Yes, Baltimore's Colt starting quarterback that day. Halfsack, he was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be it's gonna be a great game. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes and company. It's a team we expect to see in the championship on Championship Sunday, and even this year, I think the vast majority of people probably had Josh Allen and Buffalo, knocking off. I was right there with you, knocking off Kansas City. I was fully expecting it myself, but it's playoff Pat is just it's a different animal. And it gives you just another reason to think, am I going to second guess the Kansas City Chiefs? Is that something?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. And again, this weekend, it's like I'm looking at this game and I'm like, okay, it's the Baltimore Ravens. They've got a ridiculous defense. They've got the MVP of the season in Lamar Jackson. They're so well coached. Their run game has been so effective. Whether it's Gus Edwards, whether it's Dalvin Cook, whether it's Lamar Jackson, he's got Mark Andrews coming back this weekend. Like his weapons have been performing. Like this is a loaded Baltimore Ravens team. I think it's been pretty obvious the Ravens have been the best team in football since the San Francisco 49ers game. And again, it's just that gnawing thought in the back of your head. Yes, this Baltimore team is great, but so is Patrick Mahomes, and it's going to be so much fun to see. If a Harbaugh Andy Reid matchup, I think is something that is going to go underrated and underspoke about. I think leading up to this game, obviously everyone is interested in the quarterback matchup and the defenses But just the brain battle between Andy Reid and John Harbaugh is going to be so much fun to watch this year or this weekend. But it's going to be a great football game. I can't wait.
I feel like this is a different AFC Championship game than we've seen because usually Kansas City's the hunting because everybody wants to be because Mahomes and Andy Reid are so dominant, they're kicking everybody's butt. But Kansas City's not the same team we've seen the past 5 years. Kansas City doesn't have the same offense. The chief offensive line's not been the same. And it will be even more under the scrutiny because Joe Tooney's out. And I think we both can say Joe Tooney's probably the best left guard in football.
Yeah.
By the way, the Baltimore Ravens lead the NFL in points per game and what's that other word starts with S, ends with K?
Sacks.
Yes, sacks.
Yeah. No, and they're all good points, and like that's the thing, and that's what makes this game so interesting is that Baltimore is favored. They are the favorite in this game. They're the 1 seed. They're playing at home. They've got the almost lock of an MVP this year. All of these things, the Kansas City Chiefs aren't themselves this season. They don't have receivers. The receivers can't catch. Travis Kelce's going to retire. He's having a down year. He's too old. Isaiah Pacheco runs like he's angry at the ground, but even still, you've got all of these factors, and almost all of them are pointing directly at the Baltimore Ravens. And then you just have to sit there and think about it. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and in my mind, I almost think that the Ravens are the underdogs in this game, even with all of these points going at them, just because it's Patrick Mahomes in an AFC Championship game. I mean, you've got to take the experience and he's been there for what it's worth, because having that AFC Championship game experience, having Super Bowl experience, it's something that you can't practice for. It's something you can't train for. It's something that you can't study for. You gotta have to have done it. And all of these signs are pointing towards the Baltimore Ravens as the favorite and the team that should win this game. And in my head, I just keep thinking about that man and Patrick Mahomes and the magic that he can create on Sundays. And it's tough to bet. This game is tough to bet either way. It's tough to predict either way, in my opinion. I could see it going so many different ways, but it's a scary move to pick against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, let alone the AFC Championship game. I don't care if he's home, away, or playing on the moon.
I agree because Mahomes and the Chiefs have been there. Plus, we proved Pat Mahomes road Mahomes is just as good as home Mahomes. The thing I wonder about, Baltimore's defense on the field 49 snaps against the Texans with an extra day to prepare.
Yeah.
Kansas City's defense was on the field, I think 78 or 79 snaps against Josh Allen. And because we both our teams have faced Josh Allen this year. Josh Allen is a bruising running back. Now, the Chiefs, not on a short week, but less preparation time, flying to the East Coast again, facing Lamar. Now, Lamar's actually a different quarterback than he was, less dynamic, but a way better passer than he was 4 or 5 years ago.
Absolutely. And that's the thing too, is Josh Allen last weekend ran for 72 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, obviously
heck, the Bills ran for 182 yards.
Yeah. I mean, and the crazy thing about it is, he's obviously, I mean, everyone knows that you don't have to, I don't even have to say it, but Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are 2 different players. And you're very right. The Lamar Jackson of today is different than the Lamar Jackson we've seen the past couple of years. I think he's a little bit more cautious, and he's a little bit more calculated. I definitely think is the word. It's not just snap the ball, take one look, and tuck it. He's really trying to follow the game plan and run the offense the way it's supposed to be ran. But the thing is, Josh Allen had his way against the Kansas City Chiefs defense. They still, obviously, they didn't win the game, but it's just going to be so interesting to see. Like, yes, Josh Allen can run all over Kansas City. You got to think Lamar Jackson could do the same thing. But on the flip side, everyone expected the Bills to win that game, and Kansas City still pulled it off. Buffalo should have won that game. They were the hottest team in football. They've had all the momentum in the world. They had the revenge factor on their side. Buffalo should have won that football game last weekend, and the fact that they didn't is just it's scary to me when everyone's kind of pointing at Baltimore. And again, I keep saying it, but all of these reasons, all of these factors point straight towards the Baltimore Ravens, and every single one of them makes me think, maybe we're overthinking this.
I think we might be. I mean, who's got the best weapons? Who's got the better weapons in this game? Baltimore, Kansas City.
And that's the interesting question too, is because it's not all about the weapons. I mean, honestly, I think it's pretty even. Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice, I think they kind of lost.
Zay Flowers better than Rashee Rice.
Yeah, but it's not like it's CeeDee Lamb versus Jarvis Landry. Like, I mean, they're neither of those guys are superstars. I mean, I think Rashee Rice is probably okay. I think Zay Flowers is the better player, but they're on the same tier in my opinion. Then you got the tight end matchup, and it's Mark Andrews is back. Isaiah Likely has been playing great in his absence. So you kind of combine the two of them. Travis Kelce 2 years ago, it's not even a question. But today, Travis Kelce versus the combination of Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, I see it as a watch there as well. In the run game, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco is obviously the best running back of the weekend, but the Baltimore Ravens have options. They've got, I'm not worried. Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't scare me. It's pretty much the Pacheco show in Kansas City. You look at Baltimore, they go by a committee, but it's a committee that works. You obviously have, Lamar Jackson who can add to that, Patrick Ricard who can add to that. I see the weapons as a draw.
I think Baltimore's got an advantage, especially at wide receiver, because, I mean, Zay Flowers is just so quick. Zay Flowers 0 to 60 time is faster than a Porsche 911.
It's true. And Odell's always good for a big play. We've been seeing him do it, recently for the Ravens. I mean, I think you're right. I think Baltimore has the edge. But it's closer than people might think. But I want to know, Dylan. I'm curious. There's a lot of, obviously, when it comes down to being this late in the season, a lot of people have the pressure. Patrick Mahomes has the pressure to get to another Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson has the pressure. We haven't even really talked about the NFC yet, but we'll leave that. I want to know does Lamar Jackson face the most pressure to win tomorrow, just being the fact that he's been in the league for a while, he hasn't necessarily had the success that some of these other elite quarterbacks have, or is it someone else this weekend?
Throw in a couple MVPs and guess what you judge on.
Yeah.
I mean, Lamar faces a ton of pressure to win them all because I don't know if there's been a more scrutinized quarterback in the league. They say, well, Lamar can't play because he's too much of a runner. He's not a great pocket passer. Let me tell you this. Bobby Petrino's offense, I mean, he might have sucked it with the Atlanta Falcons, is actually more of an NFL offense than people give it credit for. It's a West Coast offense. It's a very difficult offense. What made Lamar so unique in college was that he could run faster than anybody on the field.
Yeah.
And Lamar's still great at that. But Lamar's become so much better throwing the ball. I mean, that one pass against Jacksonville, where he escapes the defensive lineman twice and then it hits the wide receiver down the field. I'm like, I don't know if anybody can do that.
Yeah.
But quarterbacks are judged by rings, not MVPs. Forever and ever, Tom Brady got the Super Bowl rings, but Peyton Manning won the MVPs. Who gives a bleep about the MVP? You know who was the NBA most valuable player last year?
I know he didn't win a ring.
Yeah, and you know who did win the ring? Mr. Unsexy.
Yeah.
Joker.
It's a good point, Dylan. It's a good point.
I mean, Lamar is under a lot of pressure because if the Ravens lose tomorrow, guess who everybody in Crab City will be blaming? They're not going to blame the head coach. They're not going to blame the defense. They're going to blame.
Do you think so? Do you think Ravens fans are going to turn on Lamar if they lose tomorrow?
If he throws an interception to the other team.
That's crazy. That's tough to me because he's had such an amazing year. I think Ravens fan. I mean, here's the thing: the Ravens should. It's weird to me because we're seeing the Ravens and everyone's talking about this game, and everyone, obviously we know all about Patrick Mahomes and we know all about Lamar Jackson too. But the Ravens have never been. They're not the team that you think of when you think of consistent contenders in the NFL and consistent contenders in the AFC. I don't know if it's just, the pieces weren't necessarily all in place until this season to be able to make the run that they have. But there's always been talent on that team. And Lamar Jackson has been Lamar Jackson since he's joined the league. Yes, I get that he's upgraded, his passing skills and really put a focus towards that. And I guess that's the factor. But it's just so interesting to me that, we don't think of the Ravens, at least recently, as that consistent contender that's always going to be shooting for the Super Bowl and always going to be, in those championship games. And the fact that that's the case it gives me the thought process that Ravens fans can't have too high of expectations. Like, I get that they're the number one seed. Obviously, they're expecting to go to the Super Bowl, but I almost have to think that they're pretty satisfied with the way the season's gone. I don't think they turn on Lamar. I mean, he gave them an incredible season, much better than that even they could have expected. And Ravens fans know more than anyone, the ceiling that Lamar Jackson has. But I'm just thinking, it's not a team that we see in championship games every year.
First time in 11 years.
Yeah, I mean, it was a heck of a season by them. If it ends tomorrow, obviously they're going to be upset. Ravens fans are going to be bummed for not going to the Super Bowl. But I think at the end of the day, you tip your hat to Lamar Jackson and the rest of the team for really an incredible season. And if you go down to Patrick Mahomes. You're not the first team that's done it. You're not going to be the last.
Yeah. But, I mean, this feels like Baltimore's year, right? I mean, Cincinnati fell apart with the Burrow injury. The Chargers collapsed. All these other teams went through quarterback injuries. Tua couldn't play in negative 92-degree wind chill. The Bills ran out of linebackers. This feels like Baltimore's year. A lot like what the other Harbaugh experienced at Michigan. Now he'll be with the LA Chargers.
Yeah.
Finally, Justin Herbert got a good coach.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh man, we could fill a whole episode talking about the Chargers, but it's gonna be very interesting to see what Justin Herbert does next year.
I'm going to make a bold prediction on Herbert and the Chargers. Must see TV. Put them on Hard Knocks.
Put him on Hard Knocks, right? They won't. They're not eligible for Hard Knocks, but that'd be great.
Oh,
First year head coach. They have the right to refuse it with a first year head coach.
Jim Harbaugh's been around for. Jim Harbaugh's not a first-year head coach.
For the team, you can't be on Hard Knocks if your coach it's his first year with the team, or if you were on it in the last 10 years, or there's a bunch of stipulations. I think the only team that's interesting next year is that could be I think there's 4 teams that could be forced to do it. I think the Texans are one of them.
No. D'Amico Ryans is not a personality for Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Mike McDaniel sure was.
Well, Mike McDaniel's a personality every time he speaks at the podium.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, is Kansas City becoming New England 2.0 quickly? I know everybody hates Kansas City because the Chiefs have been the 6th straight AFC title games quickly. 1 or 2 awards. Does everybody hate the Chiefs because they keep winning or because they keep winning?
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because I actually wanted to bring this up earlier. I know you said quickly, but we do got to move on. There's 2 games this weekend, but I don't think people hate the Chiefs. I might just be biased because I hated the Patriots so much, but I felt like the Patriots dynasty was hated so much more than the Chiefs are. People are annoyed by the Chiefs. They obviously the Taylor Swift is a whole brand new thing, but Travis. I feel like Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. People are annoyed by their success. I feel like people hated the Patriots. I see them on 2 different lights. And I was actually going to bring up, I found it interesting that people don't hate the Chiefs, even though they've had, not as much success as the Patriots did, but it's the closest we've seen to replication of the Patriots dynasty, since obviously. And I was going to say the exact thing is I don't think people hate the Chiefs like they did the Patriots.
That's pretty fearless, homie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's probably just biasness because I hated the Patriots so much. But I mean, people hated New England. It was, everyone was celebrating when the Giants won that Super Bowl. And
Which one? The one in Glendale?
The first one for sure. But the second one was just as nice. But the first one meant a little more.
Yes,
I don't know. It just seems like people are more irritated with the Chiefs, whereas it was more like hatred of the Patriots. I could be wrong about that, but
maybe because the head coach. I mean, even though Andy Reid's hard on his guys, maybe because he's doing commercials, and maybe because Bill Belichick's now an old has-been.
It's true.
Who can't even become a head coach anymore.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? You're right. The Patriots' characteristic
Speaking of Belichick, I saw a tweet saying maybe the Rams should offer Belichick $15-20 million and be at DC for 1 year.
I was gonna say that for Miami. Bring Belichick to Miami as DC for a year.
He'll know the AFC East.
Yeah. He can follow Tom Brady to Florida. But yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is that Belichick and Brady played the villain, and they played it well. Andy Reid, everyone loves Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes, people love him or hate him, but Travis Kelce has a big audience as well. So I think you nailed it
All right, so now we head from Crab Cake City to the Bay Area, where the Detroit Lions will be playing their first NFC Championship game in either one of our lifetimes,
Yeah, yeah.
and facing the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco will be playing its fourth NFC Championship game in 5 years. The Detroit Lions have not played since 1991. Boy, Barry Sanders. How about, did you see the honorary captains for this game? Joe Montana and Barry Sanders.
Jeez. Can't get much greater than that, huh?
Maybe for the Super Bowl, the 49ers would have Jerry Rice.
Yeah, there you go.
But
Yeah, go on.
I think we've got the two best teams in the NFC here. I know everybody will say because Jared Goff can't play outdoors. Let me my question to you is, can Jared Goff replicate what he did 5 years ago and lead his team to the promised land? Because Jared Goff's been really good in these first couple games, going toe to toe with Stafford and Baker. Now going up against the cream of the crop, the Golden Kings in the NFC. Can Jared Goff win outdoors? I mean, the weather's not going to be an issue in Santa Clara. It's going to be, 68 degrees tomorrow?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be his biggest test. That's for sure. I will say I was a little surprised and a little almost disappointed with Detroit's performance against Tampa last week. I expected them to win that game a little bit more handedly. I don't think the game was exactly as close as the score made it seem to be. But I was hoping to see a Detroit Lions just masterclass last week, and I didn't see it. And the 49ers are no joke. I mean, it's going to be an absolute game. Can Jared Goff do it? Of course he can. I think the Detroit Lions have a shot. Do I think they'll win the game? And does my gut say they'll win the game? I see too much talent on the San Francisco 49ers sideline. I think it's going to be the toughest defense that the Lions have come up against in a long time. And that offense is just so dynamic that the 49ers have. It's going to be interesting, and I think the biggest storyline coming into this game is Brock Purdy. Obviously, the Lions, it's the sweetheart story, and, everyone's rooting for the Lions. The whole country's rooting for the Lions, and I am too. I hope the Lions win the Super Bowl. I love Dan Campbell, and, I'm happy for their fans. But, as far as pure just talking football, I am so intrigued to see what Brock Purdy brings to the table tomorrow. Obviously, last season, the championship game did not go the way he expected with him, getting hurt early in that ball game. And I think he's going to come in, very motivated and very determined to put on a showing. Yes, Detroit Lions defense is overperformed.
Less than sketchy.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've overperformed at this point. But, there's, like you said, there's some holes. And that's a creative 49ers offense. And obviously Christian McCaffrey is one of the most dynamic players in the NFL. I know Deebo Samuel's banged up. He is playing, correct? He is active. So, there's plenty of weapons on San Francisco. It's a loaded team. I thought, I predicted the Packers to upset the Niners last week, which almost happened. That game was closer than I think 49ers fans were hoping it would be. So I would have a little bit of concern if I'm a Niners fan there. But, Brock Purdy's going to have all the motivation in the world. Detroit will too. But, it's going to be a heck of a football.
If you're disappointed in the Lions, I was very disappointed in the 49ers last week. I mean, San Francisco's game plan was so conservative. I mean, the drive at the end of the first half before the 49ers didn't want Green Bay to have the ball. That didn't make sense. Your object is score. Don't let the other teams have the ball. And to me, there are 3 first-round quarterbacks and 1 seventh-round quarterback, and I'm not sure Brock Purdy's a championship-caliber quarterback. San Francisco's got the best team.
Yeah.
But I think there are a couple areas where San Francisco's hurting the ball, just like any team. I don't think San Francisco's got a great offensive line, particularly center to right tackle.
Yeah.
And have you seen Aiden Hutchinson the last 4 weeks? That guy is hotter than Taylor Swift, Travis Kelsey, and Jason Kelsey with his shirt off.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, he's a scary one on that D line. And
And you know what happens when Brock Purdy's facing pressure? Bad things happen. I think in Purdy's last 3 games, he's thrown 3 touchdowns and 4 picks.
yeah,
That Baltimore game sticks out to me. And he's lucky that Green Bay defensive backs didn't bring their catcher mitts. Otherwise, Green Bay wins that game.
yeah,
And I'm last week was the first. Samson's has been my pick of the NFC all year, and Saturday night was the first time I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't know about the Niners. Partly because of Purdy, and partly because we know in these games, Kyle Shanahan would just give Christian McCaffrey the ball 37 billion times.
yeah, yeah. You're right about that. And it's a tough game to call because really it could go so many different ways. I mean, obviously Detroit has to know that Christian McCaffrey is going to be a highlight of that game.
But Detroit's got a very good run defense. Kyron Williams, nothing. Rashad White wasn't really a factor as a running back.
Yeah.
So if Detroit can make San Francisco one-dimensional, this game could play out a little differently.
Yeah, I get that Detroit has a good run defense, but you're talking about Rashad White, and what, Kieran Williams? Like, to me, yes, you've got a good run defense, but Christian McCaffrey, I don't care who your run defense is. It's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's not only just as a dump off, he's so dynamic. That's the thing about him is anytime he touches the ball, it's a touchdown opportunity. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a design play for him. It doesn't matter if it's a design play for Debo or Brandon Ayuk to go 60 yards down the field, and all of a sudden Brock has a little dump off pass over here to the side. And next thing you know, it's McCaffrey taking the ball all the way down the field. It's just at the end of the day, in games like this, you got to look at the superstars and you got to look at the guys who know what it takes to get the job done. I mean, if you're comparing quarterbacks, then maybe Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions are the ones that you pick in this game. If you're picking pure talent, I look at Christian McCaffrey, I look at Nick Bosa, I look, at even the receiver room. I mean, you got Amon-Ra on the other side. There's a lot. I mean, it's Championship Sunday. There's talent all over the field, but Christian McCaffrey is one of the most dynamic players I've ever seen. I'm hoping the Lions win this football game, but something just screams the favorites to me here. My gut is telling me it's going to be the Niners, it's going to be the Ravens, and something about going chalk is the way it's going to go.
Honestly, the one thing that scares me about Detroit is its defense because, Detroit back end, particularly the secondary, will struggle. I think Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle can have monster days tomorrow night. I think Christian McCaffrey as a receiver could. And then offensively, can Jared Goff replicate his indoor performances outside? Because remember what his last outdoor game was, Week 14 against the Bears. It didn't go well. The Lions lost.
Yeah. But playing Soldier Field versus the Bay Area is a little bit of a different situation, I think. I mean,
where did Jared Goff go to college?
True.
Cal,
yeah. Golden Bears. Yeah, yeah. There's storylines all over the field, that's for sure.
Here's the one thing I know. You think San Francisco's got a great defense. I actually think San Francisco defense is completely overrated. Detroit's got a great offensive line. Yes, Isaiah Jackson, left guard's not playing. But Penei Sewell might be the best tackle in all of football for the next 10 years. He might be Trent Williams 2.0. Frank Ragnow, who's playing with 17 injuries, has done unbelievably well in that center spot. Taylor Decker's so unappreciative at left tackle. And then you look at San Francisco's offensive skilled players. Well, Detroit's really good too with Monty, Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra, Josh Reynolds, Jameson Williams. The Detroit Lions are stacked. I mean, if you're doing a top 5, top 10, top 20 players list, Detroit's got almost half the players on that list.
Yeah, well, they should. I mean, I get your point. Like, Detroit's got talent, but they better have talent. It's the NFC Championship game. I mean, that's the thing about Detroit too. Is the thing I need to see their offense. I want to see their offense really just be dynamic. I want to see Jameer Gibbs get involved. I feel like we've seen a little less from Jameer Gibbs lately. Like yes, I know Monty is talented, but he's such a traditional running back. You got to have some creativity. You got to have some different dimensions in your run game. You've got to have different dimensions in your pass game. It can't just be Sam Laporta up the seam or because what I worry about is Detroit going with what they know and San Francisco stopping it and Detroit not being able to react quickly enough to make the alterations that they might need to mid-game tomorrow. I think Detroit can come up with a great game plan. I think they've got great talent, but if that initial game plan goes off balance or someone gets hurt and you can't do what you were planning on doing, or San Francisco figures out that initial game plan, you got to be able to adjust on the fly. Dan Campbell and his offensive coordinator and offensive coaching staff has got to make sure that they've got a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, a plan E, because it's going to be a hard-nosed football game. And San Francisco knows your talent and they know where to attack you. And if you can get some something different that they're not expecting, that's your chance to win this football game.
Maybe Dan Campbell's plan is bite Christian McCaffrey's kneecaps tomorrow.
Yeah, something like that. But what are we? Let me see.
I mean, it's going to be a fun game. Remember, Detroit's last road playoff win was the 1957, I think, Western Division game against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, dude, it's gonna be such a good weekend. I'm looking at these stats. I'm looking at the preview. I'm looking at the stats from last week. It's just, I wish it was Sunday. I wish it was games today. Let's see. I'm not sure what you're asking me to do. But I think we should transition on. Dylan's favorite thing to do. Everyone knows that Dylan is the sports encyclopedia. Anything there is to know about sports, Dylan's got it somewhere in the back of his mind there. And yet he still always asks me to come up with a trivia question for him. I don't know why I do this, and I don't know why I play along, because I think I've stumped you once every time we do this. I've got one. I think it's a good one. If you would have asked me, I would have had no idea. But I've got a question for you. You ready?
Yeah.
I'm turning back the clocks because I feel like that's the only chance I have. If I ask you anything within the last 20 years, it's just too easy. So, got it right here. It was one team in the 1970s that went to 5 straight championship games. They only won one of them. Who was the team and what were the years?
Five straight
championship games in the 70s. It's a hint. 5 straight consecutive championship games in the 70s. They won one of them. Who was the team and what were the years? I should have given you the years. Asked you who was the team and what their record was in those games. But
was the team the Oakland Raiders?
The team was the Oakland Raiders. You are correct about that.
And I think the only time the Raiders won the AFC would have been 1976 because I think the Raiders ended up beating the Minnesota Vikings in the Super Bowl.
I have that Super Bowl in 1977 against the Minnesota Vikings, which it might have been the 76 year.
76 years, 77.
Right. But yes, you are correct. That was the year they won, and they went to every AFC Championship game from 1973 through 1977. They only won one of them.
Was that with the late Kenny Stapler in the center?
I would have to assume. I don't have that information on deck, but I can't think of any other Raiders quarterbacks from that day. So.
And Fred Biletnikoff using up more stickum than Taylor Swift's got CDs.
There you go. But good job, Dylan. I knew I couldn't stump you. I really should have asked you. I should have framed it differently. Told you one team went to the championship game in 5 straight seasons in the 70s. Who was that team and what was their record in those 5 games? But that would have been a better way to frame it. But oh well.
Yeah, that would have been Kenny Stabler in the center. How about this? He only threw 19 passes in that Super Bowl.
Wow. Jeez. Who's running the ball? Is that Mark?
Clarence Davis ran for $137. Fred Biletnikoff caught 4 for 79.
Interesting. There you go.
Okay. I know you already mentioned how both home teams win them all.
Say again?
How both home teams win them all? Guess what? Neither home team is winning them all.
All right. Looks like you have his own prediction, huh?
I think this is 2018 all over again. I think both road teams win. I think the Chiefs go into Crapcake City and beat them all. And then, you know what? Give me the better quarterback in Jared Goff. I think the Lions turn Brock Purdy into pizza delivery Purdy tomorrow night.
Yeah. It's such a tough weekend to call. My head and my heart are going in 2 different directions.
My head and heart both like the road teams.
Yeah. I want to see a Lions-Ravens Super Bowl. I want to see a Niners-Ravens Super Bowl. I know I've been hyping up the Chiefs this whole episode, but I think, as I said earlier, I have to go chalk. I think I'm going Baltimore and San Francisco. I think we've got a Super Bowl rematch from the Harbaugh, and I just think there's too much talent on both those football teams. It's so tough. I really want to see the Detroit Lions win that game, and I think Patrick Mahomes has a very good chance at winning his. But I think if I had to make an educated decision, just with all the pieces, I gotta go chalk. I gotta go Baltimore, San Francisco.
Chicken. Chicken.
I almost predicted that Green Bay upset last week. That was close, man.
No, I would have taken Green Bay in the point. The Packers were the right side of that team. Like, the line was way too much.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, homie. So we got a little disagreement on Championship Sunday. So it's gonna spice up all night.
Yeah. And by the way, my other prediction of last weekend did come true. I told you those Houston Texans were going to come off to a hot start, and I knew that they were going to lose it. I said in that prediction the Baltimore Ravens will probably come back and win that game, and maybe in pretty decisive fashion. But I'll tell you what, those Ravens did not look like the Ravens that we were used to seeing in that first quarter and even first half. That Houston Texans team slapped them in the face, just like I said they would.
And then Houston didn't even score a point in the second half.
Well,
All right, homie. So thanks for hopping on. Maybe one of these days we'll be talking a Dolphin Jag AFC Championship game.
I would sure hope so. Thanks for having me, Dylan. It's a pleasure as always. Next time we do this, we'll be talking Super Bowl. But fins up, you know it, baby.